All right. Добрый утро. Last Thursday, National Public Radio had a rebroadcast of the Intelligence Squared program. This is a debating program from New York University at Skirball Hall where people meet, discuss ideas of any kind of importance. The one they had last Thursday was, is Afghanistan a lost cause? And they had several master debaters there kicking this idea back and forth. So what happened, I'll get into the program in a minute, what happened was in the first 10-12 minutes, the program lost its feed or whatever. And interestingly enough, this happened right when Mr. Matthew Ho, who was the former State Department defector, who left Afghanistan in disgust at the policy, began to speak, and it resumed right when a war advocate resumed his part of the debate. So, since this rather pissed me off, I sent an email to the program director of the National Public Radio affiliate here, and we had a little exchange back and forth. My first email to him was, listening to the Intelligence Squared debate Thursday evening, Ray the Afghanistan War, the first 15 minutes presenting the anti-war point of view were guillotined, nothing but dead air. The broadcast resumed exactly where the moderator intervened to introduce the pro-war advocates. Could this be any more obvious? I'm sure there's some BS rationalization, technical difficulties, etc. But it's pretty clear the intent was to avoid antagonizing the military community and its partisans. It was outright weaseling censorship and requires an apology from your station to its listeners. All right. Well, not to take my attacks lying down, the program director reposted, "You assumption, sick, about last night are not only incorrect, but are insulting. If you would like to speak with me personally about this, feel free to call me at the following telephone number." My reply back to him: "Your sense of insult is no greater than mine, as I looked forward to that program. I know what I heard from 8:02 to 8:14, which is nothing, and the timing was impeccable. I'm sure there's any number of technical reasons for this, though the broadcast had absolutely no problems afterward. A more appropriate response might be a public explanation with a verifiable reason as to why the program went dead at that moment." Okay? Now, it's very possible that I'm just simply blowing off gas and that there was a rational technical explanation for this. However, there's no way I can know that. Now, my asshole is not of such circumference that I can't admit to being wrong, that I can't apologize if I am wrong. However, I was not the only person affected. Everyone trying to listen to that broadcast heard nothing but dead air the first 10 to 15 minutes or so while Mr. Ho was making his point. And a public explanation would be, in order to my knowledge, none has ever been offered. That being said, we'll move on to the actual broadcast itself, which involved Mr. Matthew Ho and a Nir Rosen as advocating the resolution as a lost cause, and Peter Bergen and someone else, Mr. Bergen is a national security journalist, I guess you could call him, who was all for it. His partner, I forget who this man was. Anyway, all he needed to do was quote Kipling and break into verse about the white man's burden. Pure imperial rationalization. Every colonialist always does things for the good of the benighted natives and is like, I don't know, like some Ottoman official is just there for the good he can do to serve mankind. And the problem is the poor benighted natives just simply don't get the idea and they always start shooting. This is, standard fare. I mean, Anything much one can say about that. Peter Bergen, however, was the one who really made the most memorable statement of the entire program, whatever that was actually aired. His famous line was that we have a moral obligation to the people of Afghanistan, and for that reason we can't leave. Well, Mr. Bergen, and to those who subscribe to Mr. Bergen's point of view, where's your moral obligation to the American people not to lie them into two wars that they didn't want? Where's your moral obligation to the soldiers that have died in both of those wars to this point, and to their family members? Where's your moral obligation to the people of both those countries not to bomb them and lay their nations waste in pursuit of your noble objectives? If there was a bit more moral obligation out there where it counted, you wouldn't have to be there now undertaking your onerous moral burden. So obviously the real moral obligation here is to the territory of Afghanistan and to the mineral resources, its territory as an oil and gas pipeline transit. That seems to be where the real obligation lies, where the real source of morality is to be found. And for that reason, of course, the United States cannot leave until that obligation is resolved. So it all comes down to the resolution there. Is a lost cause? Well, of course it is. And it's very easily summed up. Much more so than all that debate patter would have you understand. The very simple thing is that the United States and its coalition partners will lose in Afghanistan for a very simple reason. The people they are fighting are Afghans in their own home, and you are not.